Welcome back. In this video, we're going to discuss how to practice playing piano. So by practice, I mean we all play piano for fun, so we can sit down at the piano and just doodle away, playing some chords and maybe write songs or play with friends. Now this is, of course, considered playing the piano, but I wouldn't classify this as practicing the piano. So practicing means working on improving your both basic chops, your speed and technique, also your theoretical understanding. And many people ask me, well, suppose I have this and that amount of time to practice each day. How should I actually spend it? So I'm going to give some solutions to those of you who are sort of struggling with that sort of question. So the first principle that's very important, actually probably is the most important, is it's always better to practice routinely a small amount of time each day than to practice inconsistently for large chunks of time. What do I mean? Well, suppose you sit down and practice 30 minutes each day during the week. So this would add up to 30 minutes times 7 days in 1 week, which would be a few hours, be 3.5 hours. And you could also say, well, I'm not going to practice the entire week. I'm just going to play for 3.5 hours one day on Saturday. And actually, it's considerably better to choose the first option, in which you practice less each day, but do it in a very consistent manner. So this is probably the most important piece of advice I can give you. Now let's talk about how to divide up your time, assuming you have only this and that much time. So we're going to talk about a few cases. If you have 15 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, an hour a day, and 2 hours a day. And I'll tell you what I think is probably the most important to focus on. So let's start with the shortest amount of time, which is 15 minutes. So for 15 minutes, I would say the most important thing to do is to practice a particular piece. So it's very important to choose a piece that is at your level, and I'm going to have a list of pieces at the end of the video that I recommend. We're going to talk about this in a moment. But to choose a musical piece and practice playing it, slowly learn it over time. Usually, from my experience, classical pieces make the best practice pieces. So these sort of things, of course, it has to be tuned to your particular level, and just sit down and practice it. This will work on many, many different things in a very holistic way. It will practice your note reading abilities, because you're going to have to get sheet music for the particular piece. This will work on your technique, obviously. And classical pieces are great for technique, if chosen correctly. And it will be musical and fun. So at the end of the day, you're going to be able to play a piece, which is really one of the goals of learning piano. So I cannot overstress how important it is to play a real world piece, not just some sort of exercise. These sort of things. If you have 15 minutes a day, forget it. Don't do it. Just focus on practicing a piece. Now, you should choose a piece that you can master in a limited or finite amount of time. I would say a few weeks. So you should choose a piece that you can sort of get a grip on in, say, 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 2 weeks, and you'd like to change the musical piece every few weeks. Now, if a piece is too long and you only have 15 minutes a day, take a sub-part of the piece. Take, say, the first few bars, or take the first chorus or verse or whatever it is that you find exciting about the piece, and just focus on that. Then when the time comes to switch the piece, a few weeks have passed, you can move to the second part of the piece or the third part and sort of string them together. However, I would recommend choosing pieces that are not too long. So for 15 minutes a day, pieces should be between a page or 2 pages long. Now, if you have 30 minutes a day, what should you do? Well, for 30 minutes, the advice is pretty much the same. You should focus on playing a piece, just one piece, and you can spend the first 5 minutes, say, doing warm-ups, so doing exercises like from books like Journey or Hannon or any of these exercise books that you can buy, are very cheap. You sit down, you do these sort of boring drills. They're important, they're good, but at 30 minutes a day, you don't want to spend too much time on them. The musical piece, once again, if chosen correctly, is going to develop you more as a musician than an exercise. Now let's talk about if you have an hour a day. Now things become a little more interesting because you really have a sizable chunk of time to invest. So here, my advice, so there are two sort of scenarios. The first is, if you're a singer-songwriter, I would spend, I'd say, 20 minutes of that hour practicing theoretical concepts. So I mean, if you're learning about major chords, then simply construct all the major chords and all of the notes, and play them on all notes, and play their inversions, and memorize them, and so forth. If you just want to play piano, I would stick to 10 minutes of warm-up exercises. And, of course, there are many warm-up exercises. I'm just repeating the same one to make things concrete. And then I would focus on playing 2 different pieces. So 2, say, classical pieces. They can be Bach, and could be Mozart, Beethoven. It could be beginner level, intermediate, advanced, depending on your particular stage. So 50 minutes divided evenly between 2 pieces would, in my opinion, be the best way to improve your chops and piano playing skills. And finally, we get to 2 hours a day. For 2 hours a day, I would probably spend 20 minutes warming up with exercises. Of course, you need to learn the exercises themselves, which would take some time. So learning the exercise can be thought of as part of the warming up routine. So you have the 20-30 minutes a day, and you sit down and you learn the exercise, and once you know it, you can just repeat it. And then the rest of the time should be divided depending on whether you're more of a singer-songwriter, and then you should spend maybe 40 minutes on theory and constructing chords and harmonic progressions and chord voicings, and the remaining amount of time on playing 2 pieces, practicing 2 pieces. And if you're not a singer-songwriter, but you just want to learn to play piano, then you should spend all of the remaining time, which is, say, an hour and a half, practicing 2 pieces. Now, why 2 pieces and not 1? Well, 2 reasons. First, you don't get bored, which is very important when practicing consistently for long periods of time. The second is the different pieces should challenge or develop different aspects of your playing and technique. You know, don't choose two pieces that are very, very similar, but try to spice it up. So you'll get more exposure to different fingerings and harmonic sounds and structures and all of the things that playing a piece should teach you. So we've discussed how to sort of divide up your time when you're practicing. Now let's address choosing pieces. So this is, of course, the best thing I can, really the best sort of advice I can give you is start out with a teacher. It's extremely, extremely important that you, at least the first few lessons, take with an experienced piano teacher. This will really teach you the basics, how to put your fingers properly on the piano, how to switch fingers. You know, sometimes the finger will go underneath another finger or above. So all of these things are best learned, the first steps are best taken with an experienced teacher. Of course, if you can continue, then that would be great, and then the teacher will tell you how to practice and what to practice, but if you can't, then that's fine okay, as well. When choosing pieces, back to the topic, first of all, you don't want to choose too difficult a piece. That's extremely important because it becomes very frustrating and people just stop practicing if something is too difficult. The same goes for being too easy. And once again, in my personal opinion, classical pieces are really the best sort of training grounds for piano playing. So I've compiled a short list of suggestions for beginners, intermediates, and advanced players. Now, how to practice playing a piece? When you first encounter a piece, you're going to start out with the sheet music for that particular piece, whatever it is, and you're going to slowly learn, first of all, one hand, and then another hand, and then you're going to slowly, and I mean very slowly, play both hands together. So going back to this simple minuet by Bach, what you would do is and similarly for the left hand. And you would practice these two starting out very slowly until you feel comfortable enough. Now you don't need to get very good at playing each hand, just play it enough so you can remember it. Then when you can sort of memorize each hand, you should bring down the speed again and practice on playing it fluidly together. This is, by the way too fast when first learning how to combine the two hands. There is no such thing as playing too slowly, but there is a thing as playing too fast. So the worst thing you can do is you can trying to play a piece too fast and fumbling it up. Once again, it's extremely, extremely important that you play properly. So that means playing each note and giving it the proper weight and articulation. It's better to play a piece slow but well as compared to fast but sloppy. So speed will come with time. It's something that I know is very difficult to accept, when you're starting out. And I was frustrated by, just like any other beginner, by this fact. But speed does come with time if you practice consistently and properly. So don't worry about speed. Worry about playing things correctly in time, in tempo. You can choose to buy a metronome. That's probably a good idea, but when learning the piece, you should start out without the metronome. The metronome is very, very, I think beginners find it extremely, how should I put it, maybe just nerve-wracking. It makes them feel very like they need to keep up with the metronome and they end up making mistakes. So first of all, learn to play the piece comfortably without the metronome, and then bring in the metronome and try to work on your timing skills. I mean, playing to a particular time. So these are my global how to practice piano tips. Of course, this is sort of a meta lesson in the sense that we didn't practice piano, we talked about practicing piano. You're welcome to check out the other videos on the channel, which are more concrete than this sort of philosophical one. And once again, my best advice really is to find a teacher for those first crucial steps until you sort of get a grip of things. That's it for now, and I'll see you next time.